أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. My dear viewers, brothers, sisters, and the lovers of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the 10-night series on Ahlul Bayt TV titled Karbala's Inspiring Spirits, where on each episode, inshallah, we will learn certain attributes from the holy personalities that we see in Karbala. Inshallah, every episode I will be joined by some amazing guests and we will recite poetry, latmiyas, nohas in honor of that holy personality that we will be remembering on that particular episode. Today's episode is titled Learn Courage from Sakina salamullahi alayha or Ruqayya salamullahi alayha. And I am honored and so pleased to be joined by my dear brother Sayyid Murtaza Hamdani. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you doing, my brother?
Alhamdulillah, your duas, how are you?
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I know everybody's busy, especially coming up to Muharram with Noha recordings and things like that. So thank you so much for taking the time.
It's my pleasure.
And inshallah, your presence can benefit myself and the viewers as well, inshallah, when we speak about this amazing personality. So to start with, when you hear the name of Bibi Sakina or Bibi Ruqayya salamullahi alayha, what goes through your mind? What are the first sort of emotions that come to you?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. First, before answering the question, just like to thank you, Imran Bhai, for inviting me onto the show. It's an amazing initiative that you're doing yourself, and inshallah, our ibadah and zikr is accepted. So yeah, answering your question, honestly, how long do we have? Because it's very difficult to put into words. Just hearing the name of Bibi Sakina, salam alaiha, how emotional it can make a grown man like yourself feel. First thing that comes to mind is obviously the show is about courage, and that's exactly what it is, bravery, in a sense where she was the light, the beacon of light for the household of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, where there were many young children, but they all turned and looked to Bibi Sakina for that hope. And just because there was so much going on, but she was able to defy what justice means through her actions and not worry. Because obviously, if a child nowadays was to see that what happens to their family, what happened to Bibi Sakina, they would go into a frenzy, they would cry, they would probably faint. But Bibi Sakina, she held her head high and she told the stories of her father. So it just embarks how brave and how courageous she was throughout that time. So for me personally, it would just be bravery and someone who's able to take responsibility at such a young age.
Amazing, subhanAllah, so nicely put. And you're right, and I love the fact that what a reminder that Imam Hussein said that a house without Sakina is not a house worth living in. And you're right, she brings that light into his house, right? You know that, and alhamdulillah, being a father, and in fact this particular episode is very relatable to me because I have a daughter who is four years old as well, so we know exactly to relate. And a daughter is a princess, it's a rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I can only imagine, to have a daughter like Bibi Sakina, for Imam Hussein, imagine having her sleep on your chest every night. It's the best feeling. It's the best feeling. And the status that Imam Hussein alayhi salam actually gave her must give us an indication of her character as well. Just at 4 years old. And we'll speak about this through the show tonight, inshallah. But what an amazing child she must have been to allow Imam Hussein alayhi salam to say that about her. Such a beautiful status, mashallah. So I think it would be very apt, and with your permission, we would love to start the show with a recitation from yourself. It would be an honor to hear you. And please, if you have something in honor of Bibi Sakina salamullahi alayha.
Of course, definitely. I understand Ahlul Bayt TV is mostly an English based channel. Obviously, I recite in Urdu, Punjabi, etc. But I do have something in Urdu. Obviously, I'll give a short summary in English.
That'd be amazing.
In regards to what the poetry is about. So, the poem is about when Bibi Sakina salam alaiha was in prison after the trials and tribulations she faced. And she's addressing her father throughout this kalam, talking about the journey she's been through, how her and her aunts who were with her at the time, they've been chained and tortured. And she talks of how she feels suffocated in the dungeon, the prison that she was staying in. and how she wishes her father would come to relieve that suffering. So if you could start with the loud salawat.
بسم الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
قید تنہائی میں دم گھٹنے لگا ہے میرا، آ کے سینے سے لگاؤ بابا، قید تنہائی میں دم گھٹنے لگا ہے میرا، آ کے سینے سے لگاؤ بابا، میں اندھیرے میں اکیلی نہ مر جاؤں کہیں، میں اندھیرے میں اکیلی نہ مر جاؤں کہیں، مجھ کو مرنے سے بچاؤ بابا، قید تنہائی میں دم گھٹنے لگا ہے میرا، آ کے سینے سے لگاؤ بابا، میں تیری یاد میں دن رات یوں تڑپتی ہوں، جیسے پنجرے میں کوئی غائل پڑا ہو پنچی، موت کا خوف ہے سناٹا ہے ویرانی ہے، میری امداد کو آؤ بابا، قید تنہائی میں دم گھٹنے لگا ہے میرا، آ کے سینے سے لگاؤ بابا، مجھ کو عادت ہے تیرے سینے پہ سر رکھنے کی، چین کی نیند بلا کیسے زمین پر آئے، قید خانے میں تو پڑتی ہے بلا کی گرمی، اپنی گودی میں سلاؤ بابا. Imran bhai, how you were previously mentioning that as a father yourself, and you have, mashallah, you have your own daughter, how it's the best feeling for her to rest on your chest. In this verse, that's what Bibi Sakina salam alayhi is talking about, how she was so used to having her father's chest to rest her head on, and now as he isn't there, she isn't able to sleep. How can she sleep without him? And how can she sleep on such a hot floor in the prison? Moving on to the next verse, inshallah. Mere dada ne reha kitne kiye the kaidi, اس کی پوتی ہوں مگر قید میں مجبور ہوں میں، نام لے کے تیرا رونے نہیں دیتا ظالم، اب میری قید چھڑاؤ بابا، پھوپھیوں کے بھی بندھے ہاتھ پس گردن ہے، وہ بلا کیسے میری آنکھوں سے آنسو پہنچے، بے سہارا ہوں یتیمی کا کھڑا موسم ہے، اپنی صورت تو دکھاؤ بابا، قید تنہائی میں دم گھٹنے لگا ہے میرا، آ کے سینے سے لگاؤ بابا. And this verse that I'm about to recite is in relation to her relationship with Hazrat Ali Asghar alayhi salam. یاد بے شیر کی آتی ہے مجھے شام و سحر، اس کا جلتا ہوا جھولا بھی نظر آتا ہے، مجھے مل جاؤ میرے مرنے سے پہلے آ کر، ساتھ اکبر کو بھی لاؤ بابا. And just the last verse, which we call a Maqta, as you know, Imran Bhai, written by Ustad Marhum Akhtar Hussain Akhtar Sahab. نو کے نیزہ پہ جو کرتے تھے تلاوت مولا، جانے کیا سوچ کے اختر یہ سکینہ نے کہا، شام کے لوگ ہیں بہرے یہ سمجھ سکتے نہیں، ان کو قرآن سناؤ بابا، قید تنہائی میں دم گھٹنے لگا ہے میرا، آ کے سینے سے لگاؤ بابا. اور محمد وآل محمد بلند صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Jazakallah said, absolutely amazing. You recited, mashallah. May Allah accept. May we accept your pursa, your amal. And may Allah give you more and more, inshallah. Inshallah. So thank you so much. And so to begin the discussion about Bibi Sakina salamullahi alayha, riwayat say that she was only 4 years old. Some say 5.
Yeah.
And I looked into what the mind of a 4-year-old is capable of, and again relating it back to my daughter.
Yeah.
What can they do at this age? And so there was a psychologist that said that around 3 to 4 years old, your preschooler will probably use basic words to describe basic feelings like happy, angry, sad, and that's it. And I know from my home, my 4-year-old always asks me why why this, why that, anything you do. This is what their nature is at the moment, to ask why this, why this. Now imagine Bibi Sakina, salamullahi alayha, all she technically should be capable of is basic, I feel sad.
Yeah.
But then when you see your father getting slaughtered, what feeling does she bring into herself? And then when she asks why, who is there to answer her anything, right? And when a 4-year-old wants answers for why, it's for them to process something. So why do you do this? Okay, because it's good, it's bad. What can you tell a 4-year-old about her dad getting slaughtered in front of her? Imagine. So when we speak about the courage of Bibi Sakina salamullahi alayha, it's not a joke. It's truly courage, and this is something that she would have had to gather from within to be able to. And I truly believe that when Mawla Hussein alayhi salam was still alive, Bibi wouldn't complain about anything because her father would be there. And why any daughter you look at now, any son, any daughter at that age, your father's there. What do you have to worry about?
Of course.
Right? So her trials and her tribulations and her courage would now come after Mawla has passed away because of so much that she has to go through, right? Would you agree with that?
Definitely, for sure.
And things like when, like take an example when Mawla was still alive. A form of her courage would be when Mawla Abbas alayhi salam, he goes to the Furat to get the water for the children, right? And you mentioned hope at the beginning. It was what you say, all the children looked at Bibi Sakina for hope, and she looked at Mawla Abbas for hope, right? And that's a way, that's a form of courage that she had to deal with. How would you think she would have been feeling at that age, at that time, having all the children rely on her? What's your view on what's your kind of look on that?
It's honestly so deep, and it's too deep for someone like myself to even comprehend. I feel like I'm not even qualified to talk about that, but obviously we can try to do our best. And before I was coming on the way here, just before I left, I was at home. I was talking to my brother. My brother was just asking where you're going, and I was just telling him I'm going. Imran Bhai's invited me for a show, and we're talking about the courage of Bibi Sakina salam, and he actually told me a story which I haven't heard. I'd like to share it with you.
Bismillah, please.
He said how he heard from someone reciting on Mimbar that there was a little amount of water that they had in the camp. Very scarce amounts, but Bibi Sakina wouldn't even contemplate drinking it. What she would do with that water is she would pour it over the shackles of Imam Zain al-Abidin because it was so hot and the shackles were burning into his skin. So she would pour it over the chains. So something like that, the mentality you need to have at 4 years old, and like you said, it could be even 5 years of age, to have that mindset where you're so sacrificial. Because if that happened nowadays, elders would always force the youngest. You have a sip, have some water. But in this instance, where Bibi Sakina salam alaiha is actually going out of her way and making sure that Imam Zain al-Abidin, who's ill, as we know at the time as well, she made sure that his pain and his suffering wasn't as much. She tried to do her part, and that's something that I really resonate with, because you know how times are tough at the moment. And we, as family, as friends, we all try to help each other. And you can imagine how some people, they can become a bit more selfish. And thinking about Bibi Sakina was in the battle of Karbala, the tragedy of Ashura was the most painful thing to ever happen to mankind history. And for her in that moment of time to have those thoughts of being so sacrificing water, and I'm sure if there was more water, Bibi Sakina would have given it to the other younger children and offered to her aunties even, because that just shows the heart that she had, and obviously that stemmed from her father and her elders in her family. So I think that's definitely a massive lesson we can take away, is to think about others, put others before yourself.
SubhanAllah. And this is so interesting because again, like how you spoke with your brother, I was speaking with my wife about coming on here and discussing these different, and again, something she mentioned was that Bibi Sakina or Bibi Ruqayya salamullahi alayha being 4 or 5 years old,
yes,
people at 20, 30, 40, 50 years old can take lessons from this 4-year-old. That, imagine that's a status that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given that little princess of Mawla Hussein alayhi salam, that, you know, you're right, what you said is so true. We sometimes get so sucked in and bogged into our life, and it's all about me, me, me. We don't think about the other person, right? We don't, and for Bibi Sakina salamullahi alayha to have those kind of thoughts, right? Where have they come from, right? They've stemmed from the way she's been brought up.
Exactly.
Right? The way we are today is because of our parents. All du'as goes to them. Whatever 100%. Service we do, whatever, and it's all credit to them.
Definitely.
Right? So Mawla Hussein alayhi salam would have brought up Bibi Sakina salamullahi alayha in such a way to have that courage, right? To have that selflessness, that sacrifice, to make her and give her the status that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed her with at the moment. And you know, again, I bring it back to the time when she starts seeing her uncle Abbas alayhi salam go and get water, and like you said, and if argument's sake, if water came back, if Abu Fadl Abbas alayhi salam brought water back, you're right, she wouldn't have drunk the water, and we can confidently say that because of the character that she portrays,
100%.
right? And yeah, I think you're very right. So in terms of bringing it back to our time, in terms of being selfless, what would you say are like key points, maybe for myself and the viewers, that we can learn or have ideas about what ways you can be selfless? Because nowadays everything is okay, my career, my car, my day, my family, my. How do we turn that my into you? What would you suggest?
And speaking on Karbala, there's infinite lessons that we can take and implement in our day-to-day lives. Another thing I wanted to actually say is put yourselves, like, obviously we're not able to do this, but just try and imagine how Bibi Sakina was feeling after seeing pretty much all of her family going through those real bad trials and tribulations, and she still had the bravery to stay level-headed, to stay calm, and to carry on the message that her father was ultimately there to give. And that's something I feel like we get lost in nowadays, where we're so, especially the reciter community, which I've noticed is we're so focused on trying to do the best we can and trying to make everything as to a high standard as possible, which we should do. But then sometimes I feel like the message that we're actually delivering can get lost in transition, and not just for reciters, but for all mu'mineen in their forms of serving back to the community. It can get difficult. Like I can't imagine how stressful this must have been for you to organize how many programs are coming up. So obviously other people have those situations where whether they're making the food for the end of the majlis, or whether they're organizing the program and they need to call reciters to come, it can get very stressful, it can get overwhelming. And I've seen firsthand, obviously I'm not going to say names, and I'm no one to judge, this goes to myself before anyone. Just take a moment, reflect, and step back and just think about the Battle of Karbala, think about the test that our imams had to go through. And I assure you that will give you a slight peace, that will give you that calmness, that coolness to actually remember why am I doing this? What am I doing it for? And then you're able to deliver, you're able to serve in a much more in a manner where you're a bit more calm, and the intention, that's the word I was looking for, the intention is there, and with the right niyat, the right intention, the barakat in your service will be blessed so much more. So that's something I do to this day, where I might be struggling with my career, I might be struggling with family problems at home, but as soon as you just take a step back and you look at someone like Bibi Sakina, what she had to go through, and then you can't even compare with yourself, but when you do that, you feel like this is nothing, what I'm going through is nothing, and it kind of helps you to overcome that barrier and to overcome that obstacle.
Absolutely, and really nicely put. Again, like lessons for yourself.
Yeah.
How old are you?
26.
26, and learning from a 4-year-old. Beautiful. And what a beautiful 4-year-old to learn from. So no, I think you're very right. I think definitely, use the example of Karbala and again, you look at bringing it back to the bravery of Bibi Sakina salamullahi alayha, and in the in the courtyard of Yazid, when she was questioned about the love for her father, she would speak up.
Definitely.
At 4, 5 years old, in front of Yazid, these lanatullah, these enemies, she's speaking confidently, courageous, brave. That is God given, and that is something that we should. And again, something you could learn from that is like, don't back down. Nowadays, we have people that get scared in front of a big crowd, that get intimidated. Look at Bibi Sakina sallallahu. When it's haq, you stand up for haq.
Wow.
Don't back down. And I think that's really important. So as we're coming to the end of the show, with your permission, I'll just recite a noha, and it's titled Al Atash, and it's talking, and it's very apt to the courage that Bibi Sakina salamullahi had showed in Karbala, and it's talking about how the young children were thirsty, but they stayed patient, right? And it talks about Bibi Sakina is saying that this is my sadness, and now this sadness is not going to go away from me. This is my life, right? This is going to stick with me from life. And it also talks about Hurmala taking that, instead of quenching the thirst of Ali Asghar, rather pierced his neck with a 3-pronged arrow. So inshallah, with your permission, just a couple of verses inshallah. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
गूंजती थी करबला के दश्त में सदा, अल अताश हाय अल अताश. गूंजती थी करबला के दश्त में सदा, अल अताश हाय अल अताश. अरे तशना लब है आले मुस्तफा का काफिला, हाय अल अताश. गूंजती थी करबला के दश्त में सदा, अल अताश हाय अल अताश. हाय खैमाए हुसैन में जो नौनिहाल थे, 7वीं के दिन से प्यास से निढालते, अरे हुर की जान ले रही थी बस यही सदा, हाय अल अताश. गूंजती थी करबला के दश्त में सदा, अल अताश हाय अल अताश. हाय दोनों बाजू कट गए तो गिर गया अलम, मश्क छिद गई लहू बहा हुआ सितम. अरे गिर के खाक पर जरी ने रो के ये कहा, हाय अल अताश. गूंजती थी करबला के दश्त में सदा, अल अताश हाय अल अताश. वर मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सलावत. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Inshallah, we pray that all our ibadat is accepted. Sayyid, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come to bless us, inshallah, and with your knowledge. And inshallah, I believe that the viewers and myself have been inspired through your words. So thank you so much. Just before we end, your closing remarks on Bibi Ruqayya, Bibi Sakina salamullahi alayha, and something that maybe our viewers can learn and get inspired from, inshallah.
Inshallah. Closing statement would be just take the sacrifice and the journey Bibi Sakina had to go through during Karbala and in the streets of Sham, and just try and embody that patience in your own lifestyle, and inshallah it'll get you far in life, inshallah.
Jazakallah. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the viewers, brothers, sisters, for tuning in today. And inshallah, I pray that you have been inspired by our discussion and have learned, like both of us have today, about Bibi Sakina Salamullahi alayha and what lessons we can actually learn and put into our lives. You know, when there is truth, always stand up for haqq. Haqq will never fail, as we've seen in Karbala. Though it may have appeared Mawla Hussein alayhi salam and his army and his family were killed, but look at who the winner is today. Today, no one even wants to name their child Yazid, whereas everyone is saying Hussein, Hussein, and everybody's yearning to go to Karbala. And inshallah, we pray that with the days of Arba'een coming and the days of Muharram coming, that we are allowed and invited to the holy lands of Iraq, inshallah, where we can pay visitation and do salam to our Imam, inshallah, inshallah. Thank you for tuning in, and do tune in, inshallah, once again tomorrow for another episode of Karbala's Inspiring Spirits, where we will discuss and learn from another holy personality. Inshallah, we will see you then. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.